Most people think cancer risk in later life comes down to bad luck or family history. But for millions over 60, the real threat is the food they eat every day, silently feeding cancer cells and accelerating the disease they fear most. This episode may be an eye-opener. Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast. Today, we're breaking down the 7 everyday foods that research shows can fuel cancer growth in seniors, and what to eat instead to protect yourself. According to the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cancer is the second leading cause of death for adults over 60, with nearly 1 in 5 deaths in this age group linked to it. When the real cause is ignored, cancer can advance silently, taking lives that should have been saved. So, sitting across from me today is Japan's oldest doctor, someone who has seen these patterns play out for more than a century and is still treating patients to this day. At 105 years old, he has counseled tens of thousands on disease prevention, and today he'll reveal which foods quietly tip the odds toward cancer and which ones can turn them back in your favor.
John, I'm glad to be here, because this is not a warning people can afford to ignore. Tell me, how many seniors do you think are unknowingly feeding their cancer cells every week?
Far too many, and I bet there are people listening right now who have no idea they're doing it. So my question to every listener is, what is your experience with cancer? Is it running in your family? We hear all your comments.
The truth is, once we pass 60, our cells repair themselves more slowly. If we keep eating the wrong things, the damage has more time to grow, mutate, and spread. Yet so often, these warning signs are written off as normal aging or dismissed until it's too late to reverse them. Today, we'll go through the 7 foods with the strongest evidence linking them to cancer growth in seniors, and I'll tell you exactly why they're risky. Then we'll look at the foods that can help starve cancer cells, support your immune system, and protect your DNA. And if you stay with us to the end, you'll hear the one food I recommend most, even to patients already in remission.
So the symptoms might be real, but if we miss the cause, we misread the solution.
Exactly. By the time we finish, you'll know the 7 foods to avoid, the 7 to embrace, and how to fit them into a daily routine that tilts the odds toward healing and longevity. This is the clearest roadmap I've ever given for cancer prevention after 60.
I think about my own neighbor, Margaret. She's 74 now, and for years she believed her persistent fatigue and stomach trouble were just part of getting older. When she was finally diagnosed with early-stage colon cancer, her doctor traced part of the problem back to a diet heavy in processed meats and sugary snacks, habits she'd picked up out of convenience. Watching her go through surgery and recovery made me realize how easily we mistake warning signs for harmless inconveniences. It's why I feel such urgency in having this conversation today.
And John, that story is more common than most people realize. I've seen versions of it thousands of times. The earlier we connect diet to risk, the more power we have to change the outcome.
So let's start listening. What's the first food that quietly feeds cancer cells in the body?
The first food I warn my patients about is processed meats. Things like bacon, hot dogs, and deli slices. These are classified by the World Health Organization as Group 1 carcinogens, meaning there is direct evidence they cause cancer in humans, particularly colorectal cancer. The danger comes from compounds called nitrites and nitrates, which, when heated or digested, can form cancer-causing nitrosamines. Over time, these chemicals can damage the DNA in colon cells, increasing the likelihood of mutations that lead to tumors. In both American and Japanese studies, seniors who regularly ate processed meats had higher rates of gastrointestinal cancers compared to those who rarely consumed them. It's not about never eating them again. An occasional holiday meal is one thing, but making them a staple is playing with fire. And for someone over 60, the body's slower cell repair means the damage can accumulate much faster than in younger years.
That's shocking, especially because processed meats are marketed as convenient, even healthy in some low-fat or high-protein versions. And I know many people listening right now probably have cold cuts or smoked sausages sitting in their fridge without thinking twice. It really makes me wonder how much of our diet is quietly stacking the odds against us without us realizing.
Exactly, John, and the same goes for the second food I caution against. I'm talking about deep-fried and heavily charred foods, especially when they're cooked in reused or hydrogenated oils. Frying at high temperatures produces acrylamide and advanced glycation end products, both of which have been linked to higher cancer risk. Charred meat on a grill, for example, contains heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, chemicals proven to cause DNA mutations in lab studies. For seniors, the risk is compounded because antioxidant defenses are weaker, making it harder for the body to neutralize these compounds. The result is more oxidative stress, more inflammation, and an environment where damaged cells can thrive instead of being destroyed. The occasional summer barbecue won't ruin you, but making fried or charred foods part of your weekly routine is a gamble no one should take. And yet, because these foods are tied to comfort and tradition, many people don't realize the cost until symptoms appear.
So it's not just about calories or cholesterol, it's about the chemical changes in the food that can directly damage cells.
Exactly, and those changes happen in your own kitchen, not just in a factory. The way we prepare food can be just as important as what we choose to eat.
That's a critical point because so many of us think home-cooked automatically means safe and healthy. It also explains why cancer prevention advice isn't just about cutting out certain products, but about rethinking cooking habits entirely. I'm thinking of a friend who proudly grills steak twice a week, believing it's better than eating fast food, and in some ways it is. But now I see how the charring itself could be a hidden danger. These two examples really set the stage for how everyday choices, even ones we think are harmless, can quietly raise our cancer risk. Which makes me wonder, what's the next food on your list that people should think twice about before eating?
The third food I urge seniors to be mindful of is high-sugar, ultra-processed snacks. The packaged cookies, pastries, candy bars, and sweetened breakfast cereals that line supermarket aisles. These foods don't just spike blood sugar, they also drive insulin resistance, which creates a hormonal environment that can encourage cancer cell growth.
Right. Any studies you would like to mention for this?
John, studies from the National Cancer Institute have found that consistently high insulin and blood glucose levels are linked to increased risk for breast, colorectal, and pancreatic cancers. The problem isn't one occasional treat. It's when these refined sugars become a daily habit, replacing nutrient-dense foods your body needs to defend itself. Over time, the lack of fiber, antioxidants, and essential micronutrients weakens your immune surveillance, the system your body uses to detect and destroy abnormal cells. And because these snacks are designed to be hyperpalatable, they can become a quiet addiction that feeds disease without you even realizing it. For seniors, the impact can be faster and more severe because metabolism slows and the ability to repair cellular damage declines with age.
That's sobering, because so many people see a small cookie with coffee as harmless, almost like a well-earned daily ritual. But when you frame it as fueling the wrong kind of cellular activity, it makes the picture a lot darker. I can also imagine people thinking, I've been eating sweets for decades, so what's the harm now? When in reality, the harm is cumulative.
That's correct. And the same logic applies to the fourth food I want to highlight, excessive alcohol. While one occasional glass of wine with dinner may not be harmful for most, chronic or heavy drinking is a well-documented carcinogen. The American Cancer Society knows that alcohol is linked to higher risks of cancers of the mouth, throat, liver, breast, and colon. Ethanol itself isn't the only problem. When it's metabolized, it produces acetaldehyde, a toxic compound that can damage DNA and interfere with your body's ability to repair that damage. For older adults, reduced liver efficiency means this compound can linger longer, compounding its effects. Plus, alcohol can act as a solvent, making it easier for other harmful chemicals, like those from tobacco, to penetrate cell walls, and even moderate drinking can raise cancer risk if combined with other lifestyle factors such as a poor diet or smoking history.
So you're saying the combination of alcohol and other risk factors can make the effect much worse?
Yes, and that's why the context of your overall lifestyle matters just as much as individual choices. For some, cutting back or eliminating alcohol can be a major step toward reducing risk.
That's important because it shows this isn't about a single forbidden food or drink. It's about how all these factors interact in the body. It also means someone doesn't have to aim for perfection overnight. They can start by making changes in the most frequent habits first. I've seen people make a single change, like cutting soda or alcohol, and notice better energy, less inflammation, and even improved lab results within months. These two examples, sugar-heavy snacks and excess alcohol, really highlight how common pleasures can quietly erode our defenses. So, doctor, let's continue to food number 5 and 6.
Number 5 is smoked and heavily pickled foods. These include smoked sausages, certain fish, and preserved vegetables like pickled radish or kimchi with very high salt content. While these are traditional in some cultures, studies from the World Cancer Research Fund and Japan's National Cancer Center have linked high intake of salt-preserved foods to increased risk of stomach cancer. The culprit isn't just the salt, it's also the formation of N-nitroso compounds during processing, which are known carcinogens. Seniors are particularly vulnerable because decades of cumulative exposure plus declining stomach acid can make it harder for the body to neutralize these harmful compounds. And when combined with a low intake of fresh vegetables, the protective antioxidants that might counteract some of this damage simply aren't there. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy a smoked fish, but it does mean it's worth treating these foods as an occasional delicacy, not a staple.
It's interesting because many people still see pickled or smoked foods as old-fashioned health foods or a way to preserve tradition. But hearing that they can actually promote cancer development in certain conditions is a wake-up call. I can also imagine that for someone who's eaten these their whole life, it might be hard to even imagine they could cause harm.
That's true, John. And the same misunderstanding happens with the 6th food I want to mention. Processed meats like bacon, ham, and hot dogs. These are officially classified as Group 1 carcinogens by the World Health Organization, meaning there's strong evidence they can cause cancer in humans. The main risks are for colorectal cancer, but they are also linked to stomach and pancreatic cancers. Nitrates and nitrites, used to preserve these meats, can form cancer-causing nitrosamines in the body, especially when cooked at high heat. And again, the risk is cumulative. It's not about a single BLT sandwich, but years or decades of frequent consumption. For seniors, the challenge is that these meats are convenient, affordable, and easy to prepare, but they may be quietly doing long-term damage. The good news is, Replacing even part of that intake with fresh poultry, fish, or plant-based proteins can lower risk significantly.
So this isn't about never touching bacon again, but about being aware of how much and how often you eat it?
Exactly. Moderation is possible, but awareness is essential.
I like that framing because it keeps the advice simple, not overwhelming. When you see how these risks overlap, salt, preservatives, high heat cooking, it's clear why cancer rates climb with age and why countries eating less processed meat have lower rates. The takeaway: a few smart swaps each week could be one of the most powerful health moves you'll ever make. So now that we've covered the 6 caution foods, what are the 6 cancer-fighting foods seniors should eat every week?
Yes, now that we've cleared the table of those high-risk foods, it's time to fill it with allies.
Wait, before we go on, only about 10% of our viewers are subscribed. If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button so we can reach 100K and keep bringing you these health tips. Now, back to you, Doctor.
All right, John. The first one I want to bring in is cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and bok choy. These are rich in compounds called glucosinolates, which the body converts into sulforaphane, a natural substance shown in both American and Japanese studies to neutralize carcinogens before they can damage DNA. They also help the body's detox systems run more efficiently, which is crucial as we age and our natural repair mechanisms slow down. And in Japan, lightly steaming or quick stir-frying these vegetables is the norm, preserving more of those protective compounds than heavy boiling.
That's fascinating because most people just see broccoli as healthy without knowing it's doing actual biochemical work inside the body. And it sounds like the preparation method really matters here.
It does, and that's a great point to lead us into the second cancer-fighting food: antioxidant-rich berries like blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. These are packed with anthocyanins and vitamin C, both of which help reduce oxidative stress, the cellular wear and tear that can pave the way for cancer. Regular intake has been linked to lower risks of several cancers, particularly those affecting the digestive tract. The key for seniors is variety, since each berry has a slightly different mix of antioxidants and fiber.
So this is one of those cases where a colorful plate is actually telling you something about the nutrients inside?
Exactly. The pigments are nature's way of showing you the protective compounds.
And it's interesting because it means every snack or dessert could be turned into a form of cancer prevention just by swapping in the right fruits.
And this brings me to the third food, John, and this one has been in Japanese kitchens for centuries: green tea. It's rich in catechins, particularly EGCG, which has been shown to inhibit tumor growth and even trigger apoptosis. That's the body's process of removing damaged or abnormal cells before they turn cancerous. Studies from the National Cancer Center of Japan have linked regular green tea drinking with reduced risks of breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers. And the benefits aren't only from the catechins. Green tea also supports metabolism, hydration, and overall immune health.
So this is more than just a warm drink. It's a daily ritual with a purpose.
Exactly, and when paired with other plant-based foods, the effects seem to be even stronger. In fact, seniors who drink 2 to 3 cups a day often show biomarkers of lower inflammation and better oxidative balance.
That's an encouraging image, because it's not about giving up your daily habits, it's about refining them so that every choice works in your favor. And I think for many people listening, that's the key, realizing they can keep the pleasure in their diet while still protecting themselves. Which makes me curious about your next picks, because if these 3 are already this powerful, I can only imagine what the remaining cancer-fighting foods will be.
John, if berries and green tea are like the frontline soldiers in this fight, Then the next food is like the maintenance crew, keeping the body's systems running clean.
I've heard this one before. Let me guess. Beans?
Yes, beans and other high-fiber legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, all of these feed beneficial gut bacteria, which produce short-chain fatty acids that help regulate immune function and reduce inflammation. Multiple studies from the American Institute for Cancer Research show that higher fiber intake is linked to lower colorectal cancer risk. And in Japan, fermented soybeans like natto add both fiber and probiotics, making them a double defense.
That's a big shift from the way most people think of beans. They see them as a side dish, not a preventative tool.
Exactly, and speaking of preventative tools, garlic is another that's easy to add but often underestimated. Fresh garlic contains allicin, a sulfur compound that's been shown to slow cancer cell growth and protect DNA from oxidative damage. Regular consumption has been linked with lower rates of stomach, colorectal, and even lung cancers. And unlike many supplements, garlic's benefits seem strongest when it's part of a varied whole food diet.
So the way it's eaten, fresh, in cooking, makes a difference to how much of that protective compound you actually get.
Yes, letting chopped garlic rest for a minute before cooking can boost its allicin content.
That's a practical tip people can start using today.
And that brings me to the final food on this list, one that combines tradition and modern research. Turmeric. This golden spice contains curcumin, a compound with strong anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Studies from both the University of Texas, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and Japan's Kyoto Prefectural University of Medicine suggest curcumin can interfere with cancer cell growth and enhance the body's detoxification enzymes. When combined with a pinch of black pepper and a healthy fat, its absorption skyrockets.
It's remarkable how many of these cancer-fighting foods are things people might already have in their kitchens. They just don't realize the power they're holding.
That's exactly the point, John. These aren't exotic or inaccessible. They're everyday foods that, when used with intention, can change the trajectory of your health. And the more consistently they're part of your meals, the greater the protective effect over time.
It really reframes the conversation, because now, instead of focusing only on the danger foods, listeners have a clear list of allies they can bring into their lives. And I imagine that's where your daily plan comes in, showing exactly how to fit these into breakfast, lunch, and dinner without it feeling like a chore.
Yes, let's talk shortly about the 24-hour anti-cancer routine. People, please stay with us for a bit more. This will not take too long. The routine is less about strict rules and more about creating an environment where your body can naturally defend itself. We start in the morning with hydration, a glass of water, and if possible, green tea to flood the body with antioxidants before the day even begins. Then sunlight exposure or a brief walk helps regulate circadian rhythms and supports vitamin D production, which is critical for immune health. Even 10 to 15 minutes outdoors can make a measurable difference over time.
That's a refreshing way to start the day. But what happens next?
Next is breakfast, where we weave in the protective foods we've talked about. For example, berries with plain yogurt and ground flax seeds give you antioxidants, probiotics, and omega-3s all in one bowl. And if you prefer savory, a vegetable miso soup with tofu delivers fiber, phytonutrients, and plant-based protein without the inflammatory load of processed meats.
I like how both options are fast and approachable, even for someone who's not used to elaborate meal prep. And I imagine the middle of the day plays a big role too?
Absolutely. Lunch is a prime opportunity for fiber-rich beans or lentils, leafy greens, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, or cauliflower. These help keep blood sugar steady and feed the gut microbiome, which in turn supports immune regulation. In Japan, this often means a mix of vegetables, fish, and fermented foods like pickles or natto, all of which have been linked to lower cancer rates. Pairing these with green tea instead of sugary drinks adds another layer of defense. In the afternoon, a small snack like fresh fruit or a handful of nuts keeps energy stable without the inflammatory hit of ultra-processed sweets. And for dinner, the goal is lighter but nutrient-dense. Grilled fish or tofu, a variety of vegetables, and turmeric-spiced dishes to calm inflammation before sleep. The earlier you finish dinner, the better your body can focus on repair during the night.
So timing the last meal really matters for cellular recovery?
Yes, research suggests that giving the body a 12-hour overnight fast improves metabolic function and cellular repair. It's a simple shift with significant long-term benefits.
It's interesting, because this daily plan doesn't sound like a diet so much as a rhythm, something you can keep up without feeling deprived. And I think that's what our listeners want, a clear path that works with their life, not against it. So how do we help someone move from knowing this to actually living it, even if they've spent decades on the opposite routine?
John, the first step is to start small and focus on one change at a time. For some, that might mean swapping a processed meat breakfast for oatmeal with berries, while others might begin by replacing soda with green tea. Once that habit feels natural, we add the next step, like increasing daily vegetable intake or cutting back on fried foods. Layering changes this way prevents overwhelm and allows the body to adapt steadily.
That's encouraging, because many people think they have to change everything overnight, and that's where they quit before they even start.
Exactly. Progress is built on consistency, not perfection. And when people notice even small shifts in energy, digestion, or sleep, they're more likely to keep going.
So the momentum becomes part of the medicine itself.
Yes, John, because belief in the process is just as important as the process itself. Once someone sees they can take control, they rarely want to give it up.
It's a powerful reminder that health transformations aren't reserved for the young. They're possible at any stage of life when we commit to the right changes. What we've talked about today isn't theory. It's a blueprint anyone can start using now to protect their health and lower their risk. The challenge is simple. Take one action this week, whether it's removing a harmful food or adding a protective one, and notice how your body responds. You already started by watching this video, so let us know whether you made it till the end, and see you in the one.